There we go. I had to switch a thing. Welcome everyone. So this is Stream Science. I haven't done it in forever. I have a guest with me today. That guest is Lurk. What's up, buddy?
Hey, what's up and what's going on, everyone? I'm Lurk Chan.
So I meant for this to happen last weekend, and literally I had OBS open. Lurk was ready, and then I just went like, because it was a very long work week for me. But it has not, relatively speaking, not been that long of a work week this week. So we're talking about shit today. And basically, this has been kind of inspired in the R3 Discord, and we were kind of talking about on-site ambiance and stuff because I've been doing a lot of kind of bigger production events at work and everything like that. And speedrun events are kind of lacking in that aspect, and realistically, a lot of events are probably lacking that. So we're going to be discussing that today, and Lurk has some ideas. Some of them are the same, some of them are probably going to be different. And then I have my own ideas. And then if in the chat anyone has their own ideas as well, just share us, let them know. I have chat open, I'm reading it, so should be good. Anyways, let's start with you, Lurk. What first off,
Mhm.
how let's take our own event like NASA, for example, because we've obviously both of us have worked on that event and we've seen it progress
Right.
from the start of from the very first event over to what it currently is now, ignoring the online only stuff. And do you think that from the very beginning, did we improve kind of like the on-site ambiance, I guess is the word I'm going to use? Like, is it inviting for people to hang in or anything like that? Like, give your thoughts on that to kind of start off the conversation.
Sure. So, I mean, when we started off, we were a hodgepodge, but we had the two room separation. We had one space, like one big ballroom, and then we had the portable door, like the slide across door. Um, so we had two room separation, although they were like directly next to each other, which I think was nice. I think that added like um, kind of a nice separation between like a huge amount of the mafia that was happening and then like the marathon room. And because they were so close, um, well, I guess it was actually like marathon practice room, right? Because they were so close, it was really easy for folks to sort of pop in and out if they were, down on the event space, and that was pretty good. We then moved to doing more like ESA was doing with sort of a big ballroom, right? Like everything was kind of in one room. Because the one year when we had two spaces, we had like a much bigger ballroom for our second space. We had a projector in there, but like I don't think too many people really utilized that space. I think some people slept in there for the most part, which is not maybe the best use of marathon space. Um, And so moving to the bigger one space ballroom, I think that was nice, but I think some people still kind of like appreciate the separation. Um, and I don't know that there's not as much incentive to keep people in the marathon space like on camera, like in a way that sort of communicates that people are watching and like interested in what is going on or interacting with the stream in some way. I think that's where we could maybe look to improve in the future because, and I don't know that that's unique to just us either. GDQ has like their like the orb hype moments and the fan cam sort of they would zoom in on people and things like that. And there are some people who like dance the entire time or try to do some sort of gimmick, sort of marathon room gimmick, right? But I don't know. I mean, it's only a GDQ thing. I don't know if ESA has anything similar to that, but um, they usually cut away to like hosts plus something else, whereas like GDQ has a little bit more of a separation. Like they're either doing an interview or they've got their intermission screen up, or you know what I mean. Like, I don't know. At least that's kind of the way it feels.
Yeah, I mean, so I remember when I was talking to a couple people early, kind of NASA. It was the third live event, and it was actually those crazy guy's brother. And I was asking him, like, okay, as a friend, what do you think of our event? What could we improve? What could we not improve? And stuff like that. And one of the things that he was mentioning was that it's really cool that the event has kind of like an old school GDQ vibe, right? Where it's kind of you get to know everyone. It's not just a bunch of random people. They're kind of like characters. You know, oh, that person's in the room there. Oh, that person's playing. It's kind of all close knit. And I think the bigger the events get, obviously, you stray away from that. If you look at GDQ, nobody really cares who's in the crowd or anything like that anymore. It's all about the couch. And even then, there's a second couch. So the people in the second couch don't really matter too much. It's only who gets caught on camera. So inevitably, as an event grows, that whole kind of aspect shifts away. At a certain point, every event, I mean, unless your goal is to actively not grow, it's going to reach that point where you kind of have to grow more than just the stream room space. Because I mean, GDQ probably also started off with just one room, and then it grew and grew and grew, and then they needed a practice room and a tournament room and everything like that. But then what inevitably happens is when you create more of these incentives for people to do, and with those rooms, they have no reason to be in the stream room, right? So that's kind of the thing I'm hoping we discuss today. Maybe ideas of what we can do, what we can't do. I do know that I had a Twitter thread, whatever the term is, and there were a couple people who kind of threw some opinions out there. I should probably find that tweet to actually bring up some responses. I do know that ESA has been slightly working on the stream room atmosphere to keep people in. And then when we were last at GDQ, which was 2019, AGDQ, I think it was, when you had your Castlevania run. Was that 2019? Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. I just remember uh, there was like no reason to be in that stream room because the hotel TVs had the stream. You were literally not missing anything from not being in the room. And you could just go to the arcade room or practice room or just anywhere else. Unless you physically had a run or wanted to be there on the couch, you had, or sorry, unless you were also volunteering and your shift entailed being in that room, you literally had no actual reason to be in the stream room. So that's kind of what I'm hoping we talk about a bit. I see Naglaria's watching. What's up, Naglaria?
I mean, one thing that I at least like, something that I've been thinking about, and where I think ESA is going. And here I've got the tweet right here in place of my webcam. You can see that they've got like kind of like a small table set up by the like main sort of marathon, inside the marathon room. And I think that that's a really cool idea. Like being able to sit there and like maybe order something as you're like watching the marathon unfold on like a big projector or something. That sounds like a comfier way to sort of keep people around, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've switched to headphones just because there's fireworks happening outside and it's easier to hear you. Anyways, so yeah, at work, a lot of the more casual meetings that happen are with rounds and half rounds and stuff like that. So that way you can be at a table with your coworkers or friends or whoever is at your table for this conference or meeting. And then you can have drinks and food and you can actually still look at towards the stage or if there's a
Right.
band playing or someone's presenting or anything like that. Meanwhile, for GDQ, we have what is essentially a theater set up with just a bunch of chairs. There's two fast fold projectors on projector stands that have no skirts on them, so you just see these big, essentially tables with extended silver legs shining, and then you have just the bright stage, and you're kind of, I mean, a lot of this is kind of GDQ orientated because I have not been towards other events except for NASA, and yeah, that's pretty much it. But from at least from a GDQ perspective, it just sucks to be in that room. When you read a lot of comments where it's like just about that and everything like that, I kind of agree with them. It's not, and it doesn't help the fact. This is a topic that you can definitely kind of talk a bit about more, Lurk, but the lighting in the stream room is just not kind of inviting as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they do it for a certain reason, but I think on stream it doesn't come across as good. I was comparing it to like the idea of like a sitcom lighting, versus like something that's more cinematic. Like here is kind of more of a modern. I forget which GDQ this is, but I love the murder hand gift. It's so fucking good, dude. But yeah, this is a good moment and everything, but it's so hard to see like what's happening, right? Whereas compare that to like a classic. Yeah, compare it to like a classical, classic GDQ, from 2013. Such more even lighting, and I mean, you can literally see because it's just the fluorescent from whatever room that they were in, right? But you can just so much more easily see what is happening.
Yeah, and I think one of the direct correlations, because you can see it with our events as well, is the room lighting becomes dimmer as soon as you invest into projectors, because projectors' natural enemy is light, and you can't flood the room with light because then the projectors you have generally are not very bright. Especially if you get cheaper projectors. That would be kind of like 3,000 lumens. You get yourself like a 3,000 lumen S-Pen or something like that. If you have all the lights on in the room, you're not going to really see it. It's going to be very washed out. So you want to dim the lights, that way it's a lot more visible, and especially more visible the farther away you are from the screen. So obviously the result of that is you need to get brighter projectors, but brighter projectors take up more power and are also more expensive. So
Right, yeah.
it is a lot cheaper to get stage lighting than it is to get brighter projectors, as brighter projectors can end up being thousands of dollars brand new, unless you find used ones like I did that are only a couple hundred. But even then, one projector for a couple hundred is a decent amount of studio lights that you can get on Amazon for an event. And then, your stage is properly lit and you can properly see your people, even though the room's all dim. So
Right,
a
yeah.
lot of the answers to this is really just going to end up being money. But
See, now here's the thing that I would like to see, or at least an example. So here you can see kind of like where the stage would be for like where all the CRTs are set up, everybody behind the stage for, tech and all that stuff.
yeah,
And then there's something for people to sit down at and like maybe you could, it would obviously depend on the hotel and where the actual setup is, but maybe you could actually sit down and like have a full on, meal if you really wanted, like, electronic ordering. So you don't have to like really bother with waiters up until the orders are ready, maybe, and do it kind of that style. I don't know. It really depends on working with the hotel in order to get that arranged. Um, but
well,
yeah,
one of the things I really enjoyed about the last NASA that we had was we had a mixture of chairs and rounds. Oh, that's a pretty cool setup.
the support too. Yeah.
I wonder if I have a picture of our of our NASA
Just
setup.
imagine this, but like maybe three projectors, two on the side, one in the middle.
When was our last event? June? June of what
June
year?
2019.
I'm just going through a bunch of photos right now.
Or like this is cats, so it's a little cringe, but you know, another setup where I don't know, I feel like there's more incentive to like hang out in a spot that's like this,
Oh no, yeah, like one of
as
the things
opposed to
that
say the GDQ row of chairs.
one of the things I actually did enjoy with our setup. Okay, I found a picture actually. I will send you the picture so you can kind of pull it up because it's easier. You already are set up for screen sharing. I am not right now because I'm not a smart person. But anyways, if you look at this panorama that I took of our stream room, you can see that we have tables in the back, so you can actually eat. Let me make your camera actually a bit larger. Hold on. Oh, look at that. It's covering my face, but I don't care right now. So anyways, you can see that there's these black clothed tables at the back, and those are kind of our eating tables that we always have planned. So that way you can grab a lunch or a dinner or something from anywhere and just bring it in and eat while watching. We have our two projector screens, obviously, and kind of like our middle staging area. And then to the left and right are also a bunch of round tables. And that was pretty cool because the one day I think we all ordered from the Boston Pizza. and we could just eat at our round and then watch as the stream is going on and everything like that. So I think in that sense we are kind of working towards that on-site ambiance. And then you can kind of see there's like a little bit of uplighting because I didn't really have a lot of uplights, and they got killed later because we broke a breaker, having too much stuff plugged in. If you want to see the result of that, it's Piken's run from that NASA event. Pretty much just, and it was supposed to be a round of Dota, and then it just ended up being his actual RuneScape run because it took that long for maintenance to fix the power. Awesome stuff. But yeah, I think something like that is because we plan for the practice and the yeah, I'm live cropping. We plan for the practice and just kind of casual hangout stuff to happen in the stream room. So in that sense, we plan it. It ends up getting more of that kind of atmosphere that we're talking about ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
But then for a larger event like a GDQ, it's in a separate room, right? So
Well, and ultimately the idea is like what would keep people around or give the stream room where the marathon is taking place and where the stream is at, because you want to present the stream in a way that's like, look, this is an event, there's things happening, you want to sort of give people who can't go or don't know about the event, an insight into like, what's happening, because otherwise people are just going to chill in their rooms, and that's cool, but like we also want to show that there's like people it's good for the stream, there's like stream health and then on stream, on site health, I guess, is like maybe a good you know two halves of the same coin, right? You want it to be comfy on site, and you want people to kind of be able to do stuff, have fun, and then you want to be able to communicate that to the people watching on stream, and uh, I don't know, it's a hard balance. So maybe if the marathon room was more of a place where like, okay, yeah, we could go there and like order like a couple drinks and then watch whatever's unfolding before we go hit whatever else, that way, because otherwise they'll just go do whatever else. So
actually, I'm going through work pictures right now because if you people do not know, I actually work full time in AV. I set up conferences and stuff like that. Anyways, this is an older pic. I'm gonna send it to you as well. It's another panoramic I took, and I'll send a close-up angle kind of as well. This was an epic event. One of the things I do kind of want for a NASA event in the future, if we can get it, is this kind of plastic furniture that's lit up, and then something like that would be epic, a 3-screen setup. And one of the things also I think that could be definitely more utilized in on-site events is the fact that there has to be a different experience on the screens compared to what you can get in the hotel room and at home. Because just seeing the layout, like the stream layout on the screens, is why are you in there then? Right? So if you're doing like a triple screen setup, you could have it where that whole middle screen, for example, is just the game, or maybe it's just the runner cameras, and then on the left and right could be the actual game feeds or something like that, to give more. Because a lot of the stuff on those screens is probably fluff at that point. Like, we don't need the huge crazy layouts on the projector screen, and then we don't really see the actual gameplay and stuff like that. We need to cram in that much for the TV screens at home, or not in the stream room. In the actual stream room, we could probably better utilize the actual screens in the room to make it more entertaining for the people actually in the room, right? They don't have to constantly see like what prizes are being won and stuff like that. They probably see the prizes, and if they don't, those prizes should like be kind of public facing, that you can see, oh yeah, that's something cool that potentially could be won with donating or something, right? And even then, during the intermissions, they had like that can be a thing. So I don't think we need those specific things on the screens, or there could even be just like a dedicated donation tracker as well that just it's constantly ticks up, kind of like during charity telethons, they always have that, where there's a big screen showing the donation total, and once it clicks up, everyone goes like, whoa, right? So I think that's a missed opportunity there as well, with having just the same shit as the Twitch stream in the room, because then why am I
Yeah.
in the room, right? So
You can also have a section like, say, one half of this room is like the off-camera, portion of the dining room or something like
mhm.
that, right? Because not everybody wants to necessarily be on camera, and what if, and maybe that's a reason why some people don't go to the marathon room is because like, oh, I don't want to be on camera. But what if it was very clearly like, okay, if you don't want to be on camera, this is the side, like, this is off camera. We could even maybe like, I don't know, put like some sort of, yeah, sometimes we move the camera, but um I don't know. I guess, just more considerations to give people incentive to like sit down and like hang out for like an hour or two, as opposed to the one run that that their friend is doing.
Yeah, because I mean, it used to be. I remember my first speedrun event was actually, it was an SGDQ. It was in the St. Paul Hotel, where it was in a business district, so there was literally no food but like an Herbert and Gerbert's outside. Everything else you had to walk quite a distance. It was in the basement. Um, but during that event, there was still a large population of attendees who would go into the stream room to watch the runs. Um, and I think it kind of helped out that there was like a foyer in front of the stream room that you could chill if you didn't actually want to be in the stream room. And there was just a little TV out there too. And that the practice and tournament rooms and casual rooms were not very big either. They were maybe a third of the size that they currently were relative to the last GDQ that I went to. And they were certainly a lot smaller than the actual stream rooms. So by default, when those rooms got packed, you had to go somewhere. So you'd either hang out in that foyer there or you'd go into the stream room, right? So I think when you kind of inadvertently do things like that, it also forces people to go in there. But then meanwhile, you kind of want bigger tournament rooms and stuff like that. But then you also don't stream that content either. That's something that we've always talked about as well for NASA events was streaming the side content that happens.
Yeah, yeah. Either a second stream going that just is like another setup that people just, use, or the idea of like someone like walking around with a bunch of wireless gear, right?
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
the wireless gear idea better because I think it's more candid, like you get like, we could strap like a GoPro to someone's head maybe and like, they get like the real POV and then and then whoever's doing it is interviewing them, or I think MASH was up for doing that, right? So you
Yeah.
just
I
stick a
mean,
GoPro on MASH.
we could even use phones technically. There is an app
Right,
that
yeah, yeah,
streams
we could do that.
SRT directly, and we could potentially do something like that for the next on-site event. Just have trusted people with their phones, maybe give them like a dedicated wireless mic or something that they can plug into their phone. Because I think most phones allow for an external microphone to be connected into the headphone jack,
If they
and then
have a
just
headphone jack, yeah.
yeah, if they have a headphone jack, and then just kind of get things rolling that way. Another cool thing from our last event was when George actually was streaming the Mafia games. He was under streaming to his channel. That was pretty cool too. I do kind of wish that at a certain point we can actually have an official Mafia stream because I think that would be really cool. I have a video switcher literally bought
Hmm.
in case we do it. So
I think it'd be cool if we could let like a lot of people stream too. Like, what if anybody like, because you know how usually it's like, oh, the hotel internet
mhm.
fucking blows, or it's like we don't know how good it's gonna, it'd be really nice to have like a stable like, okay, you want to stream, go for it. Yeah, just yeah.
But yeah, going back to kind of like the lighting, and because that's one of the things probably in those images that both of us shared. One of the big things is really the pictures are dim, obviously, to kind of accentuate the fact that there's a lot of lights in that room. But I think events could do a lot more with lighting around the room, just kind of even basic uplighting. One of the cool things one of the things that I think would be really cool is the proper sentence. I mean to say is if we had uplights around the room and they were just kind of a whatever color, but then when the run starts, they kind of like do a rainbow chase around the room, or just whatever color, like green, just to signify like, hey, the run has started. And then when if you have a race, each team, quote unquote, has a different color. So if like team yellow finishes first, all the lights around the room will turn yellow or whatever. Or when just a regular single player run is done, like time, the lights just kind of, do crazy stuff around just to get people going. Because otherwise it's just kind of like, yeah, the run finished. Yes, yes, yes. But doing stuff like that, I think, would make things a little bit more hype.
Yeah, no, I agree. Another good idea, like lighting ideas, like the idea of like a seasonal change or something like that, or like
mm,
a themed day for each, sort of thing. Like, you do like the horror block and suddenly everything becomes spooky, within the room or whatever. Or you do like I don't know, like a nationalistic American block or something, or I don't know, like a whatever, right? Like you could do quite a bit of themes, but just throw some extra lighting around. Yeah. I think there's like the difficulty is like you need to find the balance between like what looks good in the room and like is cool to be around, and then like what also looks good on stream. And I feel like maybe that comes more down to like the cameras, right? Like if you have
mm-hmm.
like a really good and I don't know what model, but like if you or like what lens, but if you have like a really good low light, working camera, and it can handle all of the lights going on at like whatever bit rate you're going to be able to stream at, like you could then like really maximize the quality of like the on stream experience, right? um kind of make that look really cool, because I
So
think it's just kind of dour when you look at those two GDQ comparisons, and it's like it's really nice to be able to see what's going on in the room. And that was just more like the sitcom lighting is just it's boring.
yeah,
But you can see what's happening. You can see who's in the crowd. So I don't know. There's pros and cons, I suppose.
yeah,
If
and
you could strike a good balance of both.
that's why like I have invested actually into a really good camera. It's the Blackmagic Pocket 6K Pro, which I have almost within arm's reach. Hold on, I wonder if I can grab it. I grabbed it. Okay. Anyways, I have this sucker right here. This has a Super 35 size sensor, so it's not like a tiny sensor. It can capture a lot of light. It has really good low light capabilities as well. It doesn't autofocus. That is one thing. It doesn't autofocus, but if we can kind of set it to, now where do I put this? It's gonna go right there.
Yeah, if we're not moving the camera around a lot, or just like maybe swiveling it,
Yeah, if we just get it
then
in
it
a
would be okay.
section where the people sitting are generally in focus, then we should be good. And I actually just sent another picture. This is one of our older NASA events. I think this is actually the third NASA event. And I had water lights that I borrowed from work, and you can kind of see them in the background just on that wall. Our cameras at the time could not really capture them, but that was one of the things when people first entered the room, ignoring the Christmas tree that was still in there for some reason in the middle of June. They were like, "Oh man, those lights are sick." And then for some runs, we did dim the lights, and people just kind of had that vibe going on in the room. So
Yeah, because
let
we just had like your like Xiaomi camera on this like tripod over here.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
we had your GoPro or someone's GoPro mounted to a TV to the CRT as well. There's a lot of
Oh
action
yeah, right
cams,
here.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, and this essentially just comes down to DJ lighting, and in most places of the world, you can rent DJ lighting. You don't have to buy it. You can rent it for like if you're not doing a week long event, but just like a weekend long event, you can rent it for a weekend for like I don't know, $10 a light or whatever. If you want to buy them, you can buy super cheap ones from AliExpress for like $100 or whatever, and just have them do cool stuff. For what was the event called? Speed Docs. Speed Docs. I did a Tetris Effect run, and one of the things I did to kind of make it stand out from the crowd was I had that blanket that's on my couch. I actually had it kind of behind me, and then I had a DJ light just kind of shining on it. and I set a speaker connected to it, so it would pump the audio out from my gameplay, and whenever there was a beat in the music, the lights would change behind me, so the lights behind me would match the falling of the blocks in my gameplay, and that was really cool. And I've actually done that before with 2 regular kind of uplights, same thing, for a run I did for a Polish marathon GSPS. So, and you kind of see that a lot in just like regular casual Twitch streaming as well. They'll have kind of lights behind them or whatever for mood lighting and stuff like that. And just on-site events don't really do that. At least most on-site events that I've seen. I'm not saying that they're all of them don't, but most of them generally don't, because it's not something that really crosses their mind at all. So just trying to see if anybody else has chimed in on stuff currently. No, beyond the fact that Naglaria mentioned salty bet style chatbot bet on runtime versus estimates, which is those are kind of like more. They're not necessarily on-site ambiance per se.
Or they could be like that one. I can't find it because I guess the tweet is from a suspended account. But that kid who throws a rave every time he gets like a frag.
Yes,
In
I've
COD.
seen that. I wonder if yes, that is awesome. And we don't have to do that for every run, but that kid knows what's up. And people will like that's something you could actually tie to donations as well. If there's like $100 donation or whatever X amount that fits for your event, the lights could go crazy. Oh yeah, and he has hot pyro in his room, which I think is actually insane. But you can get cold pyro, which you don't have to be like, you can literally stick your hand in the cold pyro and nothing happens. So
It seems safer, yeah.
yeah, it's a lot safer. Actually, I wonder if I have a picture.
Like this might be a little much, but like it's yeah.
But yeah, just we don't need a rave in the events, but I think just a little bit can go a long way from having the rooms be super bland. I don't have a photo on me right now, but I actually worked on an event. It was a cheerleading event, and one of the things they had was cold pyro. They had a bunch of them, so that way, when the team was done and they could go like, yeah, it would just be like, psh, right? Or when they were announcing the winners, the third place wouldn't have any of it, but then the second place would be like, psh, and then the first place had the psh, and then they also had confetti cannons happen. I'm not saying we need confetti cannons because that's just some cleanup nobody actually needs.
Everywhere, yeah.
Yeah, but cold pyro for like a finale of the event or something, that could be cool. That's very expensive, but I'd just be down for lights, just lights flickering around the room. Maybe get a mover or two, the lights that kind of they move around and they aim with a symbol. If you just make it go crazy when a run finishes or something,
Honestly, even if we just get some lights that just are like remote control,
Mm-hmm.
and we just change them, like even if we have like some runner lights, like, if we just start doing that, like, hey, you're live, hey, whatever, there's a donation, we do like the red, green, yellow, whatever the lights, sort of thing. We could even do that just for other stuff, just grab some cheap ass lights that just can do RGB and just, here we go.
Well, like I said, I did look into it.
But another idea that I just thought of that Tier used to talk about was the idea of like, if you have races, you could do like a WWE like introduction where like each runner gets their own theme song that plays like as they enter and like sit down and stuff like that, or as they're being introduced by like whoever the commentator might be. Just add a flair of entertainment to it, so to speak.
Yes, that would be I've always thought that would be a really cool idea, mainly for tournaments. If every single tournament entry had like walk-on music and stuff like that, getting ready for their bout, quote unquote, I think that would be super awesome. You know,
Or you could do like a boxing match.
yeah, that's just the meta. Just do a boxing match,
Hmm.
throw a bunch of speedrunners in there. They'd probably get winded after the first round because let's be real here, a lot of speedrunners are not very active, but you know, could work, could work. But yeah, that would be super cool if for races. Because for the single runs, I probably would not go through the effort, but for a race, I think that'd be super cool if you had like each team, quote unquote, coming down the aisle with walk on music and maybe some lights. That'd be super
Hmm.
cool. Way to generate hype for
Yeah,
the
for sure.
race.
It's just a lot of prep beforehand, though. Like thinking about how speedrun marathons come together. There usually isn't a lot of like check in with the runner about like how their run is going to go from a like entertainment standpoint. Like what are you going to commentate on, like what are you going to explain, like there's usually like that's usually something like left up to the runner, like maybe the host will check in and talk about like what they can do and donation wise, and um maybe they'll have an interview, which I feel like is pretty like they just kind of like let people know like, hey, we're going to interview you, you know I wonder if more prep could be going into like every runner who goes into it, like they get like an orientation as far as like some sort of, hey, make sure we're doing XYZ thing in order to, I don't know, you know what I mean, like just as far as making sure everyone's kind of up to speed on the expectations at least.
Yeah, well, uh, for the most part, I don't think people really prep for their runs per se in that aspect. They prep what they might say and who they might bring to commentate on it, but I don't think most people really plan their whole run out through properly. And if they do, you end up with like over planned situations like the Tri-Hex Super Mario Odyssey run, where it was literally a PowerPoint page for page, exactly what he was going to say down to the jokes. And I don't think events really need that much preparation.
I mean, you
More
can
just,
overdo it for sure, but I mean, other people definitely have prepared commentary, like Bletchy, and he does really well doing that.
yeah, and
So,
and
I
that's
mean,
when you can tell that it's good commentary, right? There's always those threads and comments where it's like, oh, this run had like amazing commentary, and those people
mhm.
probably did put in the effort to actually make sure things flow and are explained properly and everything like that. But even from a
Well, I don't know.
behind
There's
this,
there's like
no, continue.
executing
Yeah,
your speed run, and then there's like being entertaining while doing so, and that's, I don't know, that's kind of the hard thing to strike, I guess. Like when people go up to do speed run marathons, do they have the understanding that they're like an entertainer or like part of the show, so to speak, or are they just thinking like, all right, I'm going to do my speed run really well? Like, are
yeah,
those the same thing necessarily? Because I feel like there's more of an entertainment aspect to it, which I think a lot of people just sort of charm up to like the charity, and like maybe that's more of the host's job, or you know what I mean, or that's more of the interview but um maybe if they understood more that like they were trying that, and I'm thinking about even people on site, like do the runners think that they're going to be entertaining the people who are in the crowd watching them, who might all be their friends, but I mean, do they look at it that way?
yeah, and honestly,
Some people probably do.
that could probably be its own topic. Honestly, not necessarily for Stream Science, maybe for NMO if we ever bring it back, which hopefully
Well,
soon.
but I
But
wonder, the environment probably plays into that quite a bit. Like if you feel like you're on a stage and that you need to perform, and you're doing like, think of it as like a recital
oh
or
no,
something, right?
100%. And that what I'm just kind of getting at is that when it comes to the selection process of runners, do you pick the world record person or do you pick the person who's going to be super entertaining, but a lot slower, right? That's one of those things too, where it's like, well, how do you balance who do I pick? This person has the world record or this person's a lot faster, but they absolutely suck. They can't hold a conversation. They need someone else to commentate and that person's not going to be there. Because those situations happen, right? You can be good at the game, but not good at the entertaining aspect of it. And that's always another thing as well. But one of the things I wanted to bring up was from a behind the scenes perspective. A lot of these events are kind of, they would not happen unless a bunch of people volunteer. And that's why you always see during these events like, oh, volunteer for tech or hosting or stuff like that. And how many people who would potentially volunteer actually have the knowledge of, I don't know, operating lights? Or it's already hard enough to find people who can operate like OBS properly, and then God forbid actually be able to mix sound, because as soon as you put a mixer in front of people, they're like, I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing. So even finding a lighting person on top of that, and somebody to plan out all the lighting before the show, because you have to plan out that aspect, is probably not easy. And you can't hire someone because, God forbid, an event already make money to begin with. That can't happen. No, the community doesn't allow it, because the community is filled with a bunch of cheap bastards, and I'm sorry to say. Like, it's always a problem when you see that, oh yeah, these people get paid. Why are they getting paid? It's a charity event. It's like, do you realize how much effort actually goes into putting on an event for your own entertainment? It is not cheap, and it takes a lot of man hours. So it's trying to do these fancier things requires more effort, and I don't know. I know, like, we could probably pull it off with our resources, because A, we're not super huge, and B, I'm just a ringer for everything technical, as much as I hate it. But we also can kind of pull upon people who we speak to kind of like on a daily basis, and we know that we could probably teach them, hey, when this happens, hit this button, and it'll make the things go crazy, right? But for larger events where you kind of need things to be very, very simple, so that way there's less chances of things to screw up. I don't know if they can necessarily do a lot of the fancy things that we've been talking about. It's kind of a bit of a balance.
Well, it's more money, you know.
Yeah.
And they probably, you need to justify the cost of, the benefit. And yeah, that's a hard thing. Like I said, it's a balance between like sort of stream health and on-site health. And if like the on-site is not the one piece maybe generating the revenue necessarily or paying the bills, especially if next year's budget's more dependent on on charity performance. But I don't know. Are you going to a week-long entertainment show, or are you going to a week-long vacation that includes travel and hanging out with people, or are you going? So many people get so many different things out of speedrunning events that, um, what you do with the marathon room in order to make it inviting and cool and to keep people there is sort of, you know, um, I think we need to approach it by like, what goal is it accomplishing for the people who are approaching the marathon in XYZ way, For the people who are on vacation, they probably would like to sit down and like have like an actual dinner that they could like order, and then the marathon is on, and they could see what else is happening. And for the people who just want to hang out with their friends, maybe not. Maybe they'll think that it's too expensive, or that, I don't know, it's hard to call. In some ways, we just gotta try it and see what works.
Yeah, and this reminds me, I linked you something, but I'm just remembered a different thing, and I want to find that very quickly. I know it's somewhere in our NASA Discord. It was a photo by Gander. Oh, here it is. So last NASA, Gander actually went to an esports pub in Toronto, and he managed to convince them to have our event on their TV. And I think that stuff like that would probably be super cool if the hotel has a bar or something like that, or if there's like a pub nearby. If you could get the event on those TVs like that, I think that would be super awesome, because then you get that atmosphere of hanging out with friends and stuff like that, but then they're also watching the event, right? It gets away from the fact that you're keeping them in the stream room, but maybe if you could have kind of like that area in the room, I don't know, but
Mhm.
I'm trying to find words for really describing this, and I'm not finding them right now, but
That's why I really like the idea of like the dining room, a ballroom with stage entertainment, and you just replace like what would traditionally be like, the big band jazz, setup, or like
Mm.
the comedy act that comes out, or whatever. Just replace that with speed running, and then people can get up, go to the bar. They can in my utopian ideal, you'd just be ordering electronically through like your phone or something. And as far as because I don't want to have to employ waiters, or waitress, whatever.
Well, you don't necessarily need that.
Well,
So
in order to like make it so that you could actually order a dinner or something like
yes,
that,
yes,
and
yes,
like,
yes. Well, you
and
could
obviously you
do
need to get the hotel like super on board, but
you could do like a buffet style thing, for example. At work, oftentimes what we do is we have a buffet just outside of the main room,
Mhm.
or if it's in the main room, if it's a dinner or something. But even then, you just have a bartender. Having a bartender from the AM to PM is probably going to be super expensive, but maybe in the
Yeah.
evening, to get people to kind of chill in the stream room in the evenings, have a bartender in there, maybe some sort of little buffet or even just like, I know at my venue that I work at, if you have a meeting, there's always like a coffee break with snacks and tea and stuff like that just outside the room. You could probably just get that in the rooms. That way, if people are chilling in there, they can just walk up, grab a coffee, and then sit back down at their table, stuff like that. Just to kind of keep them in there, right? And like we showed off at our last event, we had TVs and stuff around the room. At a certain point, there was a D&D session happening in the room while the stream was happening. And I think if we kept more of those rounds, probably would have a lot more of that. I think, yeah, you were mentioning that potentially if we were to do another event, we just get rid of the kind of theater style seating entirely. Just get rid of it and just keep it all on rounds. And I think that probably is you can. So for someone like a GDQ, you fit in obviously a lot less people, but realistically, who cares? That room is like,
Like I'm saying, go back to something like make it to something like this,
yes, exactly.
just straight up, and then like add a third projector in the middle, maybe, so that you know, and have it all facing obviously the stage or whatever. But yeah, that way it's just you just see the people all sitting at the tables.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the three screen special, as I call it, where you have the two kind of content screens left and right, and then you have a middle screen for IMAG, image magnification. But you do whatever on the screens as long as it's different and it's still usable for the people in there.
I'm
But
not
yeah,
sure how much that would might like reduce the amount of people who could be in there.
you would
Um,
not be allowed
you
any
know,
kids, guaranteed. But realistically, how many kids are showing up to these events? Not a lot, because most of the time they need to come with a parent or a guardian who has to be with them the entire time. So, eh. But even then, like weddings happen and kids are at weddings and the bartenders are pretty smart and go like, yeah, you're 5. I'm not going to give you like any alcohol, right? So you can
well, they'd have to
probably
card
still,
people,
yeah.
so it's whatever.
But even then, like the most recent GDQ is checking your vaccination. So if we already have people doing that, is it really that much of a stretch to just have people check for ID? And if you have the hotel or venue doing it anyways, like they already have people prepped for that. So
Yeah, I mean, there's ways to mitigate it. Wristbands and
wristbands are pretty actually. So me and those crazy guys went to a music festival one year in Toronto. We're actually hopefully going back to it this year, assuming that the world doesn't explode magically again.
uh,
And one of the big things there is that you get a wristband when you're overage. That way, they don't have to card you when you're going to the lines for drinks, because that would just kill so much time in a large festival. So they just look, oh, you have a wristband? Okay, I can serve you, right? So
we
that's,
can make it part of our badge, even. Like once
yeah,
you kind of have it, and
yeah.
especially if we were able to somehow make it work. I mean, we have like a maximum of like 70 people at once, right? So I mean, it's not a lot of people to keep at track of, honestly.
No. It obviously, the bigger the event, the more you kind of have to do it. But actually, in the tweet that I linked you, at a certain point, Edenal actually responds. And I think that was the picture that you first showcased where they were drinking beers in the stream room. So
Mhm.
if ESA can do it, then I think any event can really do it, because they're the second largest event, and if they can make it happen, then there's really no excuse for the other ones. So yes, it was the picture you showcased at the start. Yeah, but going through some of the things, because my tweet was that there needs to be innovation in the stream rooms, and ALT Insider actually tweeted, let's see, I need to move it. Agree the biggest factor is that the stream room is no longer hype. People would rather be in their hotel rooms getting plastered, and for 99% of their runs, that is the right choice. So how can we make the stream room a place where people actually want to be in again? And I don't know if the things that we've mentioned today are necessarily the be-all, end-all answer to that, but I think they'd be a good start. Because like we've gotten to the point where we want different content on the screens to keep the people, give the people a reason to not just watch the stream. Get rid of theater seating so you can have a table with your friends. And honestly, what you could probably do is you could actually just quote unquote buy a table like most people do for dinners, or it's like, hey, we'll buy a dinner at this and this place for tonight, or we'll buy a table at this and this place tonight, or in a week or whatever, and like find 5 of your friends or whatever, because the table's for 10, and you know, whatever it costs per ticket. People are already paying attendance tickets, so that's something maybe you could look into. But other way, just even like reserving a table for you and your friends, for this and this time, for example, right? That could be cool. If you know that you're going to enjoy this run, you reserve the table in the stream room for that time, and then, you know, there's a server there for drinks or whatever. That could be cool. Be expensive, or, you know, just have a bar that you go to get your own drinks or something, right? Lighting around the room to kind of keep people engaged. What else did we talk about that we could do in the room?
Well, just better lighting, you know. More,
Yes,
interactive lighting.
One of the things, actually, so this week, there was an event, and we had kind of dimmer lighting because we had like a stage wash and everything going on. And one of the first complaints that we had during their first break was, can you bring up the lights in the room, because it's kind of dim and a lot of us are falling asleep. So first off, that means the presenters were not very entertaining if everyone's kind of dozing off. But B, if you're in a room with dimmer lighting, you think it's like nighttime or dark or something. You don't have a window outside to see that it's like 30 degrees outside Celsius, because screw Fahrenheit. And, you know, it's super sunny and it's the summertime. So brighter lighting in the room would definitely be awesome. It goes back to the point, though, that if you can even afford a projector, you probably did not buy very bright projectors. Personally, if I had unlimited budget for NASA, I would have 15K projectors. 15K is a really good brightness for projectors, where you can kind of keep the room lights at 50% and still actually see the screen properly. It's a bit washed out, but you can still see everything that's going on. It's not like just barely visible. So 15K projectors, those are expensive, obviously. You're probably better off renting them if you don't own them. But if you are a larger event, or you do have proper budgets and you have X amount of budget for this year, maybe just upgrade to much brighter projectors, because then you can bring the house lights up, and then you don't need that many stage lights, and a brighter room is a lot more inviting than a dimmer room, especially with no uplights around, right? So
I think you can also trap people in if they could order dinner, because then they got to pay at some point, right?
yeah, or they could
And they'll be there for like an hour and a half as shit cooks, you know, and like I don't know.
You could do
there's
dinner
just ways
tickets,
to
right?
like, yeah. I mean, you could definitely do like the table reservation beforehand and everything, and just sort of get that taken care of. But yeah, I just feel like that gives people more of like all right, I'm going to spend at least this much time down there because I'm going to be doing like at least this activity. And then maybe the hope is that like while they're down there, everybody else is going to eventually also be down there, right? Either because there's runs coming up, there's other stuff happening on stream, there's, whatever. And then people run into each other and then they do even more stuff, and maybe they're still in this, the marathon room, after, either after or at that point. I don't know. It just seems like there's just more. If the only reason to go to the stream room is to watch your friends run, then the stream room isn't doing enough. Like that shouldn't be the only reason to go in there, as opposed to say like, oh, let's go to the practice room, oh, let's go to such and such's hotel room. Um, Not that you're ever going to remove those options, but like, I don't know, there should be more reason to like go to the stream room just because, or because you can get dinner there, or because XYZ reasons.
Yeah, 100% agreed there. One of the things I'm trying to think logistically. So if obviously at work for a dinner, they have to prep all the tables, put cutlery on it and stuff like that. I'm just trying to think of how you do that during a run, but the actual answer is that you would just flip the camera orientation and the runner orientation. Instead of the runner facing a wall and then the camera is facing their face, and then therefore the rest of the room, you could just flip them, and then they would be facing, like, the TV would be, you could have them higher up so they can see the TV, and then if they like peer over, they can also see the room. But then the camera's facing the opposite direction, so if you have servers and stuff setting the tables, they're not actually caught on camera. It means that the crowd's not caught, but realistically, if you're having that large of an event, you probably need a dedicated crowd cam anyways, because you're not really going to be seeing much of the crowd. But you could also just do it just like a flip for just one run or something like that, right? So just to give the servers enough time to get the cutlery in there or something. Just trying to logistically think that one out.
I don't give a fuck if the waitresses or whatever are on camera, it is nice to show that there is like a crowd watching the run, but I see what you mean, like especially if it's supposed to be more of like a stage entertainment style of setup, like where the runner is the entertainment. Yeah, I could see how it could work, but I don't know, it could also be really awkward as far as like where would tech be then? Like would we be like in like an orchestra like pit, style, like below them, and like everything's like up above us sort of? I don't know. Um yeah, I'm not sure how that might work
Well,
from a like
tech
perspective
tech
wise.
could still kind of be on the side generally where it always is. I know for us, tech has always been kind of like behind. Well, actually, the last event was behind. The other previous events, it was kind of like to the side or also behind. So you'd still probably keep tech close. Another logistical answer is just you have a longer intermission or play a video or something like that, right? You could have like a pre-recorded segment or something for whatever amount of time they need to get it set. Or even then, like you said, just who cares? If there's people walking around in the background, they're walking around in the background. It's the same as the rest of the time, right? There's people walking or sitting down. So
Yeah.
yeah. Um, just trying to.
I think a lot of this does like it really comes down to the venue and like working with the venue to like secure these contracts that would allow you to like say have a bartender, or say have their dining staff actually cater the event for whatever that means, whether it's like people just pay per meal and you just have the deal that sets up that they'll like be available. Or I'm not actually sure how that works since we've never had to negotiate something like that as part of our contract, right? It's just
Well,
sort of been
I
like
know that
ballroom and venue.
I know that at least from work experience, generally, if you're doing an event that's kind of pre-planned and they just kind of bake that into the cost, it's like, hey, you're having a dinner on this
Yeah, but a
night.
week-long event, like
Well, yeah, you
do
could
many
do it.
I don't but do is that like I don't I can't imagine that a lot of like hotels or other places get week-long events that need
They do.
catering the entire time.
Religious events that are a week long have that.
Oh, really?
So
Huh. Okay.
basically, the too long didn't read is that for Passover, there are many Jewish people who have a fuck ton of money who then travel to different hotels because during these are like very orthodox Jews to the point where like they can't even use sensors to open up bathroom doors. They no technology is allowed whatsoever. So they go to these hotels, and for a week long straight, it's just breakfast, dinner, lunch is all catered to them because it's Passover. And
But is it like in a ballroom setting where
oh
they're
yeah,
sitting down to
100%,
dinner and all that?
100%.
Okay. And then you said they're rich, so
yeah, they're rich.
what kind of contracts are we talking about here? Like,
so I don't know how much that would be. But I
Jesus.
know for a regular dinner for events for us, I think it comes down to like $70 to $100 per person for a meal for that night or whatever. But these are super fancy. Like you are getting a salad, a soup, your main course meal, which is generally like a steak of some high end cut with like potatoes and veggies and stuff like that. And then you get a dessert. And then you end up also getting coffee and stuff at the end of your thing. So it's like a 4 or 5 plate meal or whatever. And then there's a bar.
Obviously we wouldn't need all that, but
No,
yeah.
you would not need all that. But even just like,
I just wonder what makes it worth it, you know, like at what point is it like too much where like we'd have to actually like increase the cost of our ticket prices to where it would be like, oh, yeah, this is like a $200 ticket now or something.
Well, the one thing that we've talked about quite a bit during NASA town halls is the fact that the ticket price is legitimately like the least of anyone's concerns when it comes to going to an event like this. The two biggest money sinks are travel and hotel expense, right? So at the end of the day, for an event like GDQ or something like that, the $80 or $100 you spend on a GDQ ticket is a fraction of the amount of money you actually end up spending for the event. So if instead of going out for dinner that night, it's already baked into your ticket cost, I don't know if people would really complain about that per se. But like I said, speedrunners are unfortunately really cheap. I know that because I'm really cheap. So I don't know. But then again, if my ticket price went from $80 to let's say $160, and I knew that I was getting like a prime steak cut during the night, that there was like a 4-person randomizer race going on in prime time or something like that, I'd probably be like, yeah, all right, let's do that, because that just sounds freaking awesome. So
yeah, I don't know if it would be like a baked in thing. I don't know. I feel like that would just be like exorbitant as far as the costs go, but maybe it really just depends on,
or even just like some sort of another thing, when concerts and stuff happen, there's just there's food stalls, right, that you can just walk up and get like a sandwich or a poutine or fries or something like that. If even just that existed, that there was like a pay for a food type stall or truck or whatever the hell, and then there was also a paid bar, and the only thing you had to do was reserve a table with you and your friends, that could probably work out.
Because then you have to convince them to be there.
Yeah, the only thing is you just have to convince them to be there. Exactly. Maybe give them like a free
contract cost. Yeah.
Maybe give them like a free drink ticket or something just to kind of start the night or something. So
yeah, we could probably offload some of it by like taking on a percentage of the cost to give people free stuff. Yeah, that would make sense.
So it's just like, instead of this day going out with friends for food, it's like, oh, you know what? Why don't we reserve a table in the stream room, and then we'll just order dinner or something like that and eat it there, right? So thinking about it, at our last NASA event, that would have worked out pretty epic because there was a Boston Pizza and they could have brought it to the stream room, which we did once. So
I'm imagining one of those now, like Disney pick your itinerary trips, you know, like what are you going to have for dinner on night 2, you know, as you watch these speed runs, you know, and then you go do this thing, you know, and you kind of pick out, you know, we kind of help you plan your days or whatever, you like the whole week of what you're doing. I don't know.
Yeah, that'd
be a lot of work. That'd be a lot of upfront work.
It would be, yes. Yeah, even if there's just like a pre-planned menu, I think if we could share that, like Tuesday, there's gonna be it's like Taco Tuesday or something like that, right? So it'll cost like $2 for a plate of tacos or something, right, from the hotel. That would be I think that would help a lot, because then people could decide like, oh, I really want tacos on Taco Tuesday, and there's like
Mhm.
Waffle House breakfast speedruns happening, so I really want to catch those, right? I don't
Right.
know.
Yeah.
It requires extra planning, but at the end of the day, this is an event that you want people to show up to, because that's the whole point of the event, right? For people to show up. And then the side hustle is, for most events, is the fact that you're raising money for charity, right? That's the whole point. You're convincing people to show up to your event, to then play video games at your event to raise money for a charity of some sort, is how most events go through. But
I wonder
if
if we could somehow manage to like convince the hotel or whatever, whoever we get to cater it, to like somehow put like a percentage of what they make towards the charity as well. You know, that could be
yeah,
an interesting swing as far as helping the charity get more money as well, right? Like,
yeah, if you told all the attendees like, hey, like 10% of the bar bill or whatever is going to charity tonight, whatever,
mhm,
right? So get more
even
people
more incentive
incentivized.
to,
Yeah.
yeah, because I think that's really what I think we're trying to nail down, is that we need to figure out like more incentives to keep people engaging with like the marathon room specifically,
Hmm.
like the atmosphere being cooler and there being more interactive lights, or there being, ways to get food and dinner and like, reasons to spend more time down there.
I think we kind of hit everything that we really want to hit on this topic. I don't know if anybody watching, it does look like a handful of you guys are watching this live. If you guys just want to pop anything into the chat, let us know. And if you're not watching this live, just leave a comment, and I'll hopefully respond. I do want to do more of this type of stuff, just talking about events. There's actually a person recently reached out to me. I'm not going to say their name in case they don't want me to mention their name, but they reached out to me because me and Lurk actually had a panel at the GDQ, the last GDQ we went to, talking about marathon tech. And they saw the panel and were like, "Oh my god, I'm planning event like speedrun marathons, and your panel actually helped so much in like what I should look out for and everything like that. Is there like more stuff that I can watch or read or something?" And I'm like, "Well, there's there's a Discord channel that I made and hang out in, where the whole thing is just capturing video games. But B, during the NASA events, we actually had more of these kind of tech panels. One of them was actually even Gloria and those crazy guys talking about how like the process of picking a venue and stuff like that. They were like, "Oh my god!" And then they watched it on. They're like, "Man, I really wish that I like talked to you sooner or something like that, because really these videos answered most of my questions." So it's kind of good to hear that, I'm just not screaming into a void, that there are nuggets of information that get used from time to time. So
Yeah, definitely. It's a lot of aspects to go into it. Yeah, the capturing part's one of the more annoying aspects, honestly.
oh yeah, that's why like when at work, I can tell which groups have actually properly planned out their events, and which ones probably just realize, oh shit, my event is happening next week. I should probably make some sort of itinerary for the guests, because every like hour they're like, hey, like, can I do this, or can I do that? And then it's a group of five of them, and none of them talk to each other. So it's like, oh, so we have this thing on. Yeah, your coworker just told me that. Oh yeah, 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 okay. Next person shows up. So we're doing this at this time, right? And like the previous two people just told me it's another time. Oh well, I don't know. I was planning for this time, so I guess we'll have to discuss that. And then like half an hour later, the whole team shows up and it's like, so we've came to a consensus that it's going to be at this time. Like, and that time's 5 minutes from now. You guys realize that, right? Oh yeah. But if we give you everything now, you can do it. It's like, I guess, but so I, because of work, can very clearly tell who has planned out their events like start to finish and who is kind of winging it on the fly. I would like to think our NASA events are kind of like that, but then we inevitably have to plan the theme park trip on the fly. So we are totally not planning our event start from finish, or at least we haven't been. So
If anyone's seen my readings at the end of where we thank people, it was definitely not planned.
Yeah. All right. So it looks like there's nothing new in the chat. So do you have any final words, Lurk, before we cut the stream?
Nah, thanks for watching.
All right. Thanks for watching, guys. Again, if you have any questions, just leave a comment or hit us up on Twitter or something like that. I don't know about Lurk, but personally, I'm very much okay with answering all your questions. That's kind of what this stream shit is for. But yeah, we will see you guys later. See you guys.
Bye all.